India about 30 years ago, and the trips I made back here were not that frequent, and even whenever I came here, it was more with family, etc. So I've been out of the design circuit in India for many years, and I'm really delighted and encouraged to see the energy, the passion, and how this whole community has grown from one little NID that we used to know to IDC to several different institutions and other pocket areas. But the thing that is the most heartwarming is the fact that there are people, like in Pune, there are several design firms over here, and all these people are working together. They work in their own firms, but there's a certain bond, a camaraderie, and the volunteer work that they do. It's just wonderful. You don't see things like that that has gone on for 20, 30 years. So a big hand. And the same thing in Bangalore. People have maintained friendship. So it's something that you don't see. And I travel around the world to many design schools, and I don't see that kind of camaraderie going on over there. Anyway, building the new. As Venkat said, I work for Autodesk, and everybody knows Autodesk as, how many people know what Autodesk is? Or who there? Okay. How many of you know about AutoCAD? Oh my, it's everybody. And that's one of those bittersweet stories that we have. People know AutoCAD. In fact, my good friend Jacob the other day mentioned a very funny phrase. Uska AutoCAD SolidWorks mein karwa denge. So I went back to the US and translated this to our CEO, who got quite the chuckle out of the whole thing. So let's begin today with a quiz. Is this real or fake? How many of us think it's fake, and how many of us think? Okay. Okay, it's real and fake. Okay, both. Okay, let's go to the next one, just to trick you. Real or fake? Which one is real, the left-hand one or the right-hand one? Left, okay. No, they're not. One is real and one is fake. So it was great to see the animation people, Rachna and Murli, who were talking about Arjun and a lot of the drawings and all they make. And probably they use some of our software, like Maya and all, for their work. So things have changed quite a bit. And today what I'm talking about has to do with the upcoming changes in the design ecosystem. Emerging digital technologies that affects the design ecosystem, its education, and the ways we create, the ways we make, the ways we learn. And what are we doing about it? And Autodesk as an innovation catalyst. And for that, we had to kind of reinvent ourselves. So let's move here. There's a book that I have, and we can circulate this around. It's called Imagine, Design, and Create. I have a couple of copies. If you get a chance, do thumb through it. And it's very interesting. It's kind of a curation of a lot of the people who have done work with our products, but these are more thought leaders around the world. And the reason why I'm carrying this one is because our product kind of affects everyone, from your buildings to the objects that you use. There are very few things that you don't have that don't have a presence of some kind of a CAD package to produce it, a mass-produced product. And in doing that, we have done well as a company, etc. But that wasn't all. We were kind of hungry, we were thirsty, and we were looking ahead into the next decade. And that's when we kind of realized that we need to reinvent ourselves and change ourselves. So the first part of things that I'm going to talk about is not necessarily Autodesk, but what's happening in the ecosystem. So if you look at the slide over here, everyone is a designer. That's what's happening today. From teams of professional designing manufactured objects for mass consumption, things have moved to amateur designs, makers, customizing their own creations through democratized design tools and 3D printing. So whether we like it or not, the opportunity is here. I think Ranjan and Surya were talking about the threshold of opportunities that we have today. But at this threshold, These are no longer options. These are necessities. If we, as a profession, do not reinvent ourselves, do not critically look at ourselves, and do not change, people who are non-designers, who are getting all these tools, will rush by. So what are the elements that we debate upon today? How we reinvent ourselves and name ourselves, or basically start working, roll up your sleeves, and let's blur the boundaries between different disciplines that do contribute to manufacturing or building or creating something. It's not just the designers. And we often forget that in our insular world. The other part that's happening right now is reality computing, amazing complexity. The quiz that you saw, things were very real. And now motion graphics. You can simulate a lot of things which you couldn't do 10, 15 years ago. In the old days at Funker, when we used to have CAD systems, it was just basically getting a line and a square done was a feat in itself. So when you look at this, from designed objects existing with little consideration for any connections beyond the consumer, that's kind of what our mindset has been. Client has come, they've assigned something, I've given the client something, whether the client uses it for something productive or not, that's not my problem. I've fulfilled my assignment. Well, that's no longer the case. You have a responsibility. And the other side over here on the slide shows designed objects existing in endlessly complex systems connected to countless other objects and environments and people. So that means technology is bringing all these things closer. So for you to consider and having a broad-based approach in your education or your profession is no longer an option, it's a necessity. And our teachers like Ranjan and all have taught that, these things all the way from the 60s and the 70s. I know, Ranjan, you're not that old. But being that maybe, they taught us to question things. And that's an important skill that we need to remember, technology or no technology. So when technology is becoming the enabler, the mind should be the balancer to balance things out here. So this is more of a snapshot. I don't think it's important to look at the details, but if you're interested, the book has a lot of information that Autodesk has published. But it's basically showing you by 2020, what are the 5 areas that will become the way of life. Oh, reality computing, digitized things. Everyone is a designer. Amazing complexity, global challenges, and infinite computing. So when you get into infinite computing, cloud, it's here. It's no longer something out in the future. So what are we doing about it? What are we, meaning people, whether it's a startup company or big corporations like ourselves, Google, Microsoft, somewhere out there he's sitting, Apple. It was a great day when we saw a Microsoft person stand up and talk about the design icon of Apple. Loved that, Surya. So our story began 33 years ago. There were 13 people in a little garage in Mill Valley, San Francisco, who started this company trying to create a method on a personal computer that could draft. They were drafting software in the large VAX systems and all that stuff over there. And over 33 years, but these people were computer scientists. They were not decision makers. They ran the company with a very liberal, in a good way, but consensus-based decision making. And they were never able to come upon decisions because they were too democratic in their approach. So over the years, Carol Bartz came and other CEOs came and took over the company. But what they did was something very significant. They kind of brought the drafting process, in the Eames offices, you had the big drawing boards, et cetera, and the drafting board. And then once that changed to computing, both existed for a while. People would draft something in CAD that was quickly, that they could put together, but the learning curve was pretty steep. So both analog and digital continued for a while. But today, it's gotten to a point where CAD has become kind of inherent. It's part of any design process. However, AutoCAD came up as a documentation uh, uh, software tool rather than something to conceptualize and think with. And that has been changing. So if you look at the eras that are here from 82 until next one, where drawing, visualization is all about knowing, experiencing, ideation. So yesterday, the workshop that we had with Fusion, what we're trying to do is not create another modeling software, but to bring modeling into an activity that is more meant for us to conceptualize and think ahead, just like clay in your hand, or just like your pencil and paper or a napkin that you sketch on. Can we achieve that? Well, we are trying. So here is a famous quote by our CEO, Carl Bass. Technology will give us many more tools for exploration at the conceptual stage. Designers will be more able to explore different alternatives. Carl is an excellent CEO, but a strange bird. This is a man who wakes up at 5 o'clock, takes the train or the bus, the BART, and comes to this place called Pier 9 and works over there and builds things. You rarely see a CEO building a bench in marble or wood. Okay. He also often travels with me to various different institutions and talks to students. He hates wearing a tie, a necktie. He's always in, just faded jeans and T-shirts, and yet he runs an $8 billion company. So he said, think like a startup. So a few years ago, we all started thinking differently, and the first thing we did was we changed our identity. So what you see over here, the black one, is Autodesk, what it used to be, the logo, and that's where we started. Let's start with a big change. It's going to be expensive to change everything, your corporate identity. But if we do that, we can kind of make a claim that we are, in a period of change, renaissance, metamorphosis, anything you call it. And that Mobius strip-like symbol was generated. But along with that, we made several other changes, and I don't know if it's clear through the projection system or not, but this shows you how Mothership, the corporation, is changing. So we've invested heavily in research and development. There are a lot of futuristic work, just like Xerox PARC has a place. We have a place in Toronto that works on biomimicry and other things. Boston's Tech Build Shop, it's basically these tech shops that are coming up, just like hardware stores, where anybody can go in and make things. You just become a member of that club, and it's got machines and tools, 3D printers, etc. What is that doing to the society? It's making people a lot more self-reliant to make your own stuff, so that you're not dependent on the mazdoor or the laborer to come in. You're yourself conceiving, and perhaps somebody can mass produce it for you. The other part of it is presence at various different events and conferences just like this, where we are talking a lot more about thought leadership and not AutoCAD, drafting, etc. I mean, that's there. The brand, we changed our whole internal look and feel, the way we kind of talk, the way we name our departments. If you ever visit the Autodesk office in San Francisco, do come to the gallery. It's a very interesting place to visit. Pier 9. Pier 9 is a state-of-the-art maker shop. It's world famous. It's right next to the Exploratorium. And what it has is all kinds of machines and spaces, and artists or designers can get a space, and they can be a resident. They can be an artist in residence, and there's even a kitchen, because making has to do with food. I think somebody was talking about, the paper boat gentleman. He was talking about food. I mean, it all comes under the same act of making, creating. Can we make that happen? Can we be the catalysts for that? Autodesk Foundation, it's our philanthropic foundation that we have created, which is, the aim is to change the world through the power of design. It doesn't matter if it's digital or not, but if you are creating something that will help the farmer have a better crop through design, that's something we want to do. We're doing a lot of work in Sierra Leone and Zimbabwe, some work in India through the foundation. And last but not least is education, of which I'm a part of. And it's an evangelical activity. It used to be an education sales group. We had 80 people who would kind of go to colleges, et cetera, and kind of bring software licenses to them. We decided we need to remove the obstacle, the primary obstacle for people to create and make and become innovative. What do? Let's give the software free to students, to educators, and to institutions. As of this December, we are giving it to institutions. These are professional level software. These are Maya that costs an arm and a leg just to get one license. The second part we are doing is going into a costing system that's a lot more affordable. So you pay in terms of a subscription rather than having to cough up a large amount of money for your licenses. So those things that are changing, free software to students, et cetera, but just giving free is not enough. What do you do after that? So I'll talk a little bit about that. So here's Pier 9. If you look at it, it's got some very interesting visuals. It's hard to see it right now, but I can actually show you Pier 9 through this. And there are various different projects that you'll see where people are making, artists out there, designers, wearables, all kinds of people are paving the way for using 3D printers, young people coming and creating ideas, items. The Manhattan Project is actually quite funny. It makes the drink Manhattan, and it's a measured amount of alcohol and whatever goes into creating a Manhattan cocktail. So any one of you could be working at Pier 9. There's another thing that we are doing. It's called the Idea Studio. And this is a scholarship for designers in residence that we have. And it's actually looked after by education. Last year, we had a young student from India who worked on this to look at Idea Studio in a different way. His name is Navroon Jacob. And he was an intern at Autodesk. And he was able to come up with a virtual Idea Studio. So that, let's say MP Ranjan is in Ahmedabad, and he's doing some cutting edge work. He could be an Idea Studio scholar and working with the San Francisco office, and worldwide people could see him through Skype or other electronic areas. So these are ways we are investing so that design could be spread, democratized, etc. This is our gallery. So here's the Airbus, the next wave of what would an Airbus look like if we used material that could withstand stress. And we could also bring in natural light into an aircraft. What would happen? Whether this is practical or not is immaterial. What is important is exploring these different possibilities. So the gallery is a wonderful place. It's free for anyone. And the person who is often the docent for the gallery, the person who takes you around, is our CEO. Don't be too surprised if you see a man in shorts and torn sneakers come up and start talking to you about baking and design. And he'll talk to you for an hour and walk off. And I'm really fortunate to work for a company like this where our CEO is so hands-on and is into creating solutions for the world. And this is the latest thing that we've done, is impacting lives through design. We're using the power of design to create a better world. So you could go to all these websites, just Google, and you'll see all these different activities from sustainability to water, climate, urbanization, energy, health, work in place. So now, let me go back to my PowerPoint for 1 second. And how am I doing on time, Venkat?
10 minutes to
Oh,
go.
perfect. And do I get a free pass if I stay within the, okay. So when we look at our various assets and things that we have, there was one piece that I needed to show you, and that is, what do we, So a lot of people don't know, including ourselves who work for Autodesk, we do not know off the top of our heads how many software we have. And that's ironic. But if you look at it, all these apps that are free, like all the 123D series, Catch, Circuit, Make, and these are all made in Pune, by the way. This is Anand Karekar's group and all, works on Fusion, as well as they work on our consumer group things. 3D Studio Max, Max Design, A360. A360 is a collaborative tool that helps people with SolidWorks, Rhino, et cetera, to collaborate and work. It doesn't matter who is creating the software. What's important is for the ecosystem to flourish. Because if that flourishes, we all do well. So, this is the long list of stuff that you have. Somebody was asking me yesterday about interior design. Home Styler is a great software. Instructables is kind of teaching us and telling us how to do things and work and collaborate together. So that's kind of, and it goes on and on. Sketchbook Pro, Sketchbook Express, Tinkerbox. So on that note, why is this global company doing all this? And people will say, oh, just for the almighty dollar. We are a public company, there's certain truth to that. But there's something more. If we just remained as a software company that just builds tools, we probably will not be existing for very long. What we need to do is invest intelligently. We, in fact, took a loss as a company for a couple of years. Carl took a beating on Wall Street and said, no, this is a whole area of change. We need time, and he did it. And basically, to answer the question about education, what are we? Autodesk, we are a digital solutions company. And the equation was very simple in the old days. Industry needed graduates, and academia provided, trained people. And things were pretty okay with that simple equation. When the K through 12 people went into higher education, they went through engineering school, they came out, they got a job. However, something changed. Over the past 5 to 8 years, a lot of these apps that have come into these young people's hands are all over the place. You're getting the next generation of students who are 10 or 11 years old, much more experienced with technology. And what happens with that? These post-internet brains coming to higher education with these pre-internet brains or gray-haired people like, no, Ranjan, no offense to you, but, and wanting to learn. And if we don't keep up with things, these people could be startups, they could leave. What happens to the society? The level of education. Somebody was talking about liberal arts being a very important element. It is. If you don't have a good broad-based education and people drop out and start a business, we could have the danger of having a society of people who are not educated enough. And that has its own ramifications. So, is design education prepared and equipped to handle the next generation's expectations? A question for ourselves. Are we fulfilling industry expectations of graduating students, the quality? Are we keeping up? Are we, as a profession, is ADI, is our Sunand Bhattacharyas and Jacob Matthews and all, keeping up with related fields within the ecosystem? Are we collaborating with engineers, with doctors who need products, et cetera, done? So yesterday, education used to be like this. It was a very teacher-centric, it was a teacher-centric equation. We had the teacher who was the sage under the tree or on the stage. Kids are very happy. Kids don't know any better. Kids wouldn't dare question Ranjan. I think I was one of the few ones who questioned because he taught me how to question things, which has probably been one of the strongest strengths I have today. What's that? 5? Okay. So today's learning universe is this. It's very student-centric. And with student-centric, is what's happening is these young people are being bombarded with all these different areas. So that means you have a very different mindset. Your 10-year-olds and 13-year-olds will be handling a level of stress that we can't even comprehend today when they come into college. So here, I just wanted to kind of I was dying to use this dialogue. This is no longer your father's Autodesk. In Hindi, translate, ye tumhara baap ka Autodesk nahi hai. Okay? So this slide is what makes me get up and rush to work every day. The young girl that you see, her name is Shakina. Shakina is from the Bronx. Shakina and her twin sister were in a shelter. And they got adopted by their aunt, came to school, but they were very shy. They didn't talk to each other, to anybody else. So Karen Khan, the woman on the right, runs this maker activity in various different schools. And she and one of the parents, who's very good in woodwork, helped Shakina and Ali Berry build things. So they built this scooter where kids would go out and play and not be on their video games all day long. They would exercise and it would have meaningful gains. Like Surya showed yesterday, the soccer ball with the socket. Well, this has also, it charges your cell phone and it's got a USB port. So they built it first, and I saw this thing that I was able to get them to work with Fusion. These 11-year-old and 13-year-old girls, they were able to learn Fusion, and today actually I got an email saying they were training other people, which shows that we've created a software that's easy to learn and to design things. The scooter on the right is actually another prototype. A lot of people have come out of the woodwork to help these things after this whole thing came on TV. And it's become a very big story. And now the two girls who are shy are teaching, and they're just 13-year-olds. How good is that story? And that's what keeps us alive. That's where the power of design helps you. So Autodesk Design, our vision, we're about 80 people, and we're trying to help students and educators imagine, design, and create a better world. And through that, we work with, we engage students in core subjects. We encourage students to iterate, explore, use design process into whatever they're working with, design thinking, et cetera, and connect students to industry partners for better jobs. And for that, we have started creating a lot of resources up there. For example, if you go to digital STEAM, science, technology, engineering, arts, mathematics, this digital STEAM is a collection of many different curricular pieces that have been contributed by people like yourselves. So it's a crowdsourced place, and you can download software, you can get files, but the most important thing is learn how to use these software and apply them and take it 10 steps forward. That's what we want you to do, and there are a lot of great videos and things. They're all curated and arranged properly. We also have the sustainability workshop, which was developed with Stanford D School. We invested sizably in it, and it's got some great opportunities for mechanical engineering, product design, architecture. We have student design competitions. And then what we are trying to do right now in the K through 20 journey is, if you look at it, we're working on, done? Oh, shit. Can I get 5 minutes more? Okay. So, K through to design learning in K through 12, there's an integrator certification going on, and then the foundational course in design thinking, a resource center. But basically, what I want to kind of say is the free software is for everyone. Take advantage of it. And why are we doing this thing? It kind of tells you because we're trying to inspire people to design better, imagine, create. And just to give you a sense of scale, we have 179 million people who have downloaded the free software. But does that mean that they're using it effectively? Probably not. That's where this profession comes in. That's where we all kind of come in. And it's not about the software. It's about making. There'll be analog areas as well. This is from one of Ranjan's first students, Vijay Kumar, his class at Illinois Institute of Technology. They do every year a research project. And I just want to show you very quickly, we wanted to get perspective from the student, not Autodesk. So we sponsored this project where students did a research of what would happen 5 years from now or 3 years from now in the cloud. Will life be the same? Probably not. And they worked through ethnographic interviews, co-creation sessions, learning frameworks, workflow frameworks, synthesized everything, interviewed participants from teachers to students to professionals, did an era analysis where what used to happen pre-20th century in the craftsman and apprenticeship days and how people learned from the guru, to today, it's all about collaboration. If our software or if your tools prevent collaboration, they're holding you back. So the current trend is expanding the maker society. Maker entrepreneurs will become empowered with cheaper technology, increasing government support, and new channels of distribution. And if you look at it, I'm going to fly through these. What learners want. If you're a novice, this is your attitude. If you're a student, designer, or architect, your needs are quick iteration and experimentation. If you're a game developer, you're kind of more into the skills and the performance of the software. If you are an engineer, you heavily rely on equations. And through that, they came up with 6 principles which would be guiding us for the future. And this is, again, you people, you students, working closely and giving your input and creating the next generation of tools. They also had persona-based research. For example, Christine goes through life through her research, visualization, using big data, putting our portfolio up there. These are all the needs that students are saying we would like the cloud to provide us so that we can have this engaging, immersive experience. And we can get a job by walking people through our work, not at our work. So again, then Christine grows up and she goes through her next generation of work as a professional. And then the cloud classroom, what would that be like? What would the studio be like? Could we have critiques with synchronous learning? So they came up with these 3 conclusive factors of how might we design the studio culture in the design space quickly and help iterate things and independent shared learning. And through that, we came up with Fusion. And we took into account what students really want. And this is kind of just a collection of words. But basically, what if your student could design faster, work anywhere, work on a Mac and a PC, share with anyone? And that's what we have done with Fusion, and we'll be doing that in the Design Swarm today. So in closing, we went through the upcoming design ecosystem, what's changing, and how emerging technologies will affect the design ecosystem, both and education, and then ways we create. It's no longer about us as a profession. It's about the activity. It's the verb, no longer the noun. And then design education of today and tomorrow. So action items, what would you do? As students, I would recommend go and download the software. Play with it. It's there. These are tools that are free. Go to our portal. It's Education Community. There's Autodesk Resource Center for the institutions. They can download everything and put it on their servers. And then, lastly, make, think, communicate with yourself, communicate with others through digital and analog tools. So the story here is making, thinking, communicating. And this is what we are trying to do as a company, trying to kind of evolve ourselves into becoming much more of an enabler for good design and innovation, and to create an innovative society, not an imitative society. So on that note, thank you.